The Rosen Report, sports like never before. Brought to you by Gouche Live and Paramount Sports Management. Here's Rosey.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm just outside of Newmarket, actually, but we got a great one today. It's a Roundtable. It's Talking with Taylor. It's Gouche Live. It's the Rosen Report, all wrapped up into a nice 29-minute show or faster. We'll see how it goes. But not only do we have Scott Taylor in Winnipeg, we've got Kerry Goulet, the Gouche, in Winnipeg. He's in a pretty cool setting. Let's bring the boys up. Jordan, Gouche, nice. Hey Scott, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Rosey?
I'm all right. Where are you?
All the money at the golf tournament yesterday. He's a happy boy.
I'm $1 million right here. I'm at Eric Mathis, who's a goaltender with me for our St. Boniface Reals. We had a golf tournament yesterday with 120 people at this golf tournament. No masks, except for myself. And it was an amazing event. The Fracas family put on a great show and had a lot of fun. But what was amazing is I won the putting contest. I sunk two 50-pointers and led by a mile, which was not usual, but I did it. And then at the dinner table, they announced the award. I got up there. It was like $280. Hope my wife's not watching. And I'm alumnus from the Reals and by a big stud, all that. And so I said, I felt compelled. I look back at it now as I had to give up 50%. So I gave him $140 back. Right. So I sat around the table, $140, going to the Bomber game, Scotty, and it's probably like Winnipeg. Beer's probably $10, and I got 6 guys there. So I'm going to be paying for their beer. Like, it's automatic. So fine and dandy. They go up to the 50-50 draw and they pull the number, and I'm looking and
you win
my number. I win $350. I go up to the front. $400. I go up to the front. Now I'm thinking, okay, they expect me to give it all back to the charity. I said, okay, listen, here's the deal. Right now, take $100 or leave it. And they said, take $100. So I gave them the $100, kept the 300, and spent $300 in booze with the boys last night. So,
hey, wasn't it your anniversary yesterday?
Yes. No, the night before.
Okay.
Day before.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm in Winnipeg. Great golf tournament.
Yeah.
Scotty, we're going to see you a little bit later on. I'm going off to the St. Pete to hit a golf ball with all the boys again. Now it's not a tournament. It's just all the boys that played on the team back in 1977, which is kind of cool. You guys know that when you have a little reunion. Now it's the personal reunion where we can tell those stories. And what I found cool about sitting around the table with some old guys last night, how the stories get better. And I can bullshit with the best of them. That goal that you scored, which is an average goal, now it turns out a highlight reel.
Well, you know what they say: the older you get, the better you were.
Hey, Gouche, did you go to I heard a rumor you went to the Pancake House.
I just got back from the Pancake House. I had the original. And the original is bacon, hash browns, 2 eggs the way you want it, and pancakes. I haven't had pancakes with maple syrup in a gazillion years.
Okay, I got to ask you, how much was that?
I didn't pay. My insurance guy did.
That sounds like about a $20 meal at the Pancake House.
Yeah, it was. I haven't been to the Pancake House. I actually, a very good friend of mine, her name's Cheryl Lawrence. I took her there for my first date on Pembina Highway. You know the one, Scott, I'm talking about?
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
So I was being a big wheeler. Hey, why don't we go to my house? Yeah. Why don't we go to
5 minutes from my house? Like, I'm right between St. B and the Pancake House.
So I said,
hey boys, I don't know if you guys heard this. I wanted to get your opinion, especially yours, Scotty, from being in the business for so long. I just heard this morning that MLSE, the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, Joe Bowen and Jim Ralph are not calling their 41 away games in away buildings. They're calling them off a monitor wherever TSN or wherever they're going to do the monitor. And I called with Rob Snook, the great Rob Snook. I know you know Robbie. The Sochi games, we called it from a tiny little room, 10 by 10 room in downtown Toronto at CBC on Front Street, and the monitor went out in Sochi. How hard is it going to be? The Flyers are getting Gouche. How hard is it going to be?
I got flying around.
How hard is this going to be, Scott, for Joe Bowen and Jim Ralph to call away games, hockey, off a monitor?
Well, they just did it this year. I mean, none of the teams traveled. We didn't have anybody in the press box. The only person who was able to travel, I think, was Sportsnet. They're the only people who were actually in our building from outside of the city. So nobody traveled into Winnipeg last year anyway. So they weren't traveling. They've already done this for a year. I know Paul Edmonds, who does the Jets, did it from a big room in Winnipeg and had all sorts of monitors. These guys are talented guys. They can call the game off of television.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, here's the thing that I thought would happen from COVID. The teams would realize how much money they saved by not flying media people all over the country all the time. And the other thing that's happened in the media that at some point in time, newspapers that are always begging for government money and running out of cash are going to come to realize is that the way teams are controlling their locker rooms now, it's not like it was in the 1980s and 90s. It's different now. The teams have absolute control. So the players who get to interview after the game are all the same for everybody. They're completely controlled by the teams. And last year, as we found out, they were brought out to press conferences.
Right.
So it's cheaper for everybody because I'm in the same situation as a guy who doesn't normally travel to out-of-town games. It's the same for me as it is for the newspaper guys who have the money to spend to send their teams on the road. Right. Well, if they send their teams on the road, they're getting the same interviews I'm getting sitting at home saving all the money.
Well, Scotty, can I interject?
These are going to start saving dough by not sending their media crews on the road and doing all the games from downtown.
Can I just interject on that, Paul and Scott? I went to the NHL All-Star game in St. Louis, and I'd never experienced that whole atmosphere as a reporter. The Hockey News, Graham Rousen gave me backstage passes, and I got to go back, and I saw all the greats. As you know, Scotty, everybody and anybody's there at the All-Star down in the bellows of the arena, and they've got food and everything. It was unbelievable. So it was my first experience having to take an interview then rather than giving an interview. And I saw exactly what you said there, Scott. Now they bring the one person out and you have a scrum. You're all there. You don't go in the dressing room. They come out, you talk to them. This was pre-COVID, of course, but you talk to them. It's over. Then they'll say, and now he's coming out, and then everybody shuffles their cameras and everybody. And it's always the big boys are up front and us small little guys are at the back, and you got to pull your arm through to try and get an interview or whatever. And I got a chance to talk to Scheifele at that. It was I was almost intimidated, even though I've been on Scheifele's side now trying to sneak in to be one of those beating reports. But you guys, guys like you, Scott, do get a little bit of a benefit because they do allow the big boys up front and us in the back. But it was cool to watch how controlled it is now. You're not getting a guy one-on-one very often.
No, the guys who go on the road and their papers spend all that money to sell them on the road are not getting scoops anymore. The scoops are coming out of people who live in communities, and it's all local. So the Jets scoops are Jets writers in Winnipeg.
Right.
But when the team is in another city, quite often the scoop will come from somebody in the other city. So times have really changed dramatically in terms of why would newspapers, radio stations, TV stations send people on the road and spend all that money when they're getting the same news right in the hometown? And guys on now that we're stuck on Zoom, and I don't think Zoom is going to go away a lot. I mean, I think we're going to continue to do a lot of stuff on Zoom with pro hockey players because the teams want to protect their guys. I think the world is going to change dramatically over the next few years when it comes to media coverage of sports.
Hey, listen, I wanted to add to that, Paul. You mentioned about being in a small little cubicle and that. I'm in the backyard. It looks like a Japanese spa, for God's sakes. He's done this. It's unbelievable what he's done back here. But
Great.
I'm in this little man cave, and right beside me, and you're gonna love this one, Scotty. Pulling out some history. Right in front of me is the Ed Kotowich Good Guy Award, and that was presented to Eddie Kotowich. Eric Matthews, his wife, that's her father. And so I'm in this man cave with unbelievable Don Sherry and just great memorabilia in this guy's room. But here we are in this day and age. You know, 10 years ago you couldn't do this, right? So I think we are going to do a lot more of this, and I think you're absolutely right, Scott. I think the NHL is going to set up rooms like this to allow you to do that, and so I think we're going to see a change. We've already seen, the elimination of a lot of reporters. Paul, a bunch of those guys that have been let go, and they're really turning to more of a media savvy, social networking type platform versus that personal one-on-one thing.
Well, what's been good? What are the change in landscape for me with Game On is that I've been able to hire a bunch of guys that have lost their jobs. Right. I mean, Ken Campbell is writing my Zach Whitecloud piece in this next issue of Game On. Of course, he was with Hockey News forever. And Mary Jane McCannon, who's a very good writer, used to work for The Sun and CBC. She's no longer there. I've got her writing some amateur hockey for me. Patty Don Swanson, who used to write for The Sun, was a great columnist in The Sun. No longer there. Now writing my Jets history, my NHL history in my magazine now that I have this relationship with the Hockey Hall of Fame. So the reality is that for little guys like me, the change in media landscape in Canada has been very, very good.
Yeah. Hey, Gouche, I heard you went to a high school football game last night.
Listen, you may be hearing a young Gus underneath my feet here. It's the family dog. He's trying to get something in the kitchen here, so apologize if you're hearing any of the noise. Yeah, you know what? That's a really good analogy, but I'm going to say I was very blessed. I was at the 50-yard line, maybe 10 rows up. Scott, you would know it is it called the IG Field?
Investors Group Field, yeah.
Investors Group Field. What a phenomenal facility. Guys, I could only tell you, Scott, it's like kind of like BMO. I got a chance to see the outdoor game there for Winnipeg Jets. I thought it was phenomenal. But seeing in a football mode, Scott, it is one of the best facilities I've been in as far as watching a football game. And I'll tell you what, it was a very good game. I think, and again, I haven't been following it as closely as both you guys. I know you both.
We're both going to fall off our seats.
Are you okay, Scott?
It was one of the worst football games I've ever watched in my entire life.
No, but it was live.
900 penalties.
I bet you guys, you see, you're taking it on a technical. I was in the atmosphere. Have you been to the Bomber game? Holy God! I can't believe how many young women are there, and don't take this in the wrong way, but how many young women are there, and all the young guys, and the party that's going on. 3/4 of those people didn't watch the game. It was a party atmosphere. It was one of the best.
They had a good time. They didn't watch the game.
Okay, but let me just say, Scott, I don't know CFL as well. I love the Blue Bombers. We are still Grey Cup champions. Nobody's taken it away from us. And from what I was hearing, everybody talking about, they got a good chance of, winning it. And I didn't even know we were playing the Argos. So here I am, torn between two lovers. And of course, I was. Well, no, pinball Clemens.
That's the only way to enjoy that game last night is drink all the beer, and B, not even know who the other team was.
No, and I bought a 50-50 ticket. It was at 78 grand, so I'd already won 2. So I was going for the trifecta. I didn't get it. So that's what
we're in that stadium enjoying the party. That's great fun.
It is.
We're in that stadium trying to watch football. I can't imagine how boring it must get for football fans when they have 6 and 7 minute breaks for TV commercials when you're in the building. The commercials last night were long. I'm glad TSN's making money. That's great. It keeps the games on TV. But boy, it's got to be hard to be in that stadium if you're there to watch football. That game was more than 3.5 hours. Well, more than 3, about 3:15. It should never take that long to play a CFL football game. And it wasn't because of the players, and it wasn't because of the coaches. It's because the commercial breaks are just getting longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
Scott,
that's why I liked it.
if you're not drinking all the beer or drinking all the rum from the rum hut, it's got to be really hard to be sitting there and stay interested for a long period of time when there's just no action at all.
Well, maybe that's why I liked it so much. It was so long because I was in the Pinnacle room too, and I got to meet very famous people. Rod Hill, he was in there. I guess he's a famous, and Dave somebody. He was really cool. And he was an ex-bomber, but it was free booze, and I was in the Pinnacle Club and free food.
That's spectacular. That's the only way.
Let it last 4 hours. Who cares?
Hey, Gooch, I don't know if you saw on Thursday night, but the Major League Baseball did the Field of Dreams game, the Yankees and the White Sox. How cool was that?
Well, what was cool about that is I dated a girl from Des Moines, Iowa, when I was a young kid. It was my first girlfriend, and I got a chance to go down into Des Moines and Ames, Iowa, and I was right in the middle of the cornfield. So I got to walk with her through some cornfields. Nothing else, just walk. And it was amazing to see all this corn. And to actually watch those guys come, I saw it in the movie. We all saw the movie. But to actually watch Kevin Costner turn and these guys come out and how authentic it was truly remarkable. I had goose pimples. Again, not being the biggest well-known baseball fan, it was amazing. I loved it. And I think
the ultimate thing, I want Scotty's take on this, that I heard yesterday on ESPN talking about cheating in ball and the whole 9 yards, is you have the Field of Dreams, which is the whole thing back to, the scandal, the Black Sox scandal going way back. And then you've got who's announcing the game, the number one guy, A-Rod, the number one cheater in ball. How ironic is that?
Well, how is Alex Rodriguez a greater cheater than Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, or Barry Bonds, or Roger Clemens? I mean, I spent my life playing baseball, and my only response to the people who get angry at the Houston Astros and angry at people who talk about cheating in baseball is the classic line, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Boy, when I played twilight baseball, which is over 35 baseball, if we weren't trying to steal signs, we weren't playing hard enough. I just don't get it all. The steroid era was very, very interesting to me because it started out, steroids were not illegal in baseball. You could use all steroids you wanted to. And I suppose if only the hitters were using steroids and not the pitchers, then it would have been a problem for people. But everybody was doing it. It was a period of baseball where steroids were leveling the playing field. And players like Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire were getting bigger and stronger and working harder in the gym and hitting the ball farther than everybody'd seen before. But the part that I found the most interesting is that people would argue, well, they're using steroids, they're becoming better hitters. If you can't hit the ball before you've used the steroids, you're not going to hit it after you use the steroids. Historically in baseball, there have been cheaters left and right and center. And now my favorite part, I think, about the whole Black Sox scandal, the gambling scandal, is that now baseball teams are going to start opening gambling parlors in the stadiums.
Yep.
That's where we've come to. They won't let Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame, but the stadium he played in would have a betting kiosk.
What an oxymoron. I want to put my hand up for a comment.
Yes.
Jordan just threw up, there's a great documentary about it called Screwball. We lost the great Tony O just a couple of days ago, and Paul, you paid a very beautiful tribute to it. We talk about that whole steroid situation, and if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's very similar to what went on with Tony Esposito. Paul, you had mentioned, he kind of did an innovation on his glove for the top shelf, and then of course Phil Esposito. I told you the story where Phil Esposito found out that he had that little trapper between his legs. I don't know if you know that, Scotty, where one of the defensemen took a slap shot. It came out faster than he shot it. And so I think if the rules are there, we're going to bend it, just like what went on with the cap space for the Tampa Bay. I think we can't close off every loophole. Governments can't do it with the tax situation. How are we going to do it in any type of the sports? But I think, and Paul, I want to hear your comment on this because I know you're a big baseball guy. What the oxymoron is now they have this gambling in the stadiums, and they won't, as you mentioned, let Pete Rose in the baseball Hall of Fame, and nothing's really been proven completely about all that stuff. I think, we got to turn back the hands of time and stop doing these silly things about, obviously the Pete Rose thing. I think he should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame on pure as talent.
I totally agree with you, 100%. I think Rose 100% in the Hall of Fame. Clements, Bonds, he had to hit the ball. Bonds had to hit the ball, and Bonds was a 5-tool player. Like back in the day, he was a hell of a defensive player too. He had speed. He stole bases. I don't know. The whole thing's crazy.
Yeah, I think what we've done is that we have far too many people who have the right to vote for the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Who never played baseball.
Yep.
Don't know anything about it. I mean, yeah, they write baseball. They think they know. They don't. They don't. They don't have a clue. They don't know the history. They don't know much of anything. And I think that's the biggest problem with the Baseball Writers Association of America. There's far too many people who are part of it that know absolutely nothing about the game. Nothing at all.
Hey, listen, I want to ask you guys a couple questions on the roundtable here. First, I'm going to change the name of the place I'm at. It's the Hut of Dreams, not the Field of Dreams. This thing looks like a little hut. I think if I turn the temperature up, I'm in a sauna. I wanted to ask you the question, Paul and Scott. The Winnipeg Jets have announced that they're going to rename the blocks near the Canada Life Center after Dale Hawerchuk. Now that is such a positive message. What's going on in hockey right now, obviously with the Chicago scandal, and of course with our buddy Kane and all that sort of stuff, that's talking about that gambling issue. And yet here we are you're going to be able to gamble at a set. He'll probably get out between intermissions. He'll be up there, placing a bet or something like that. What a great story. Dale Hawerchuk, not only an icon, not only one of the greatest ambassadors for Winnipeg and hockey in general, with the Canadian program. What a nice story. Scott.
When I got the press release, I didn't realize how old I was, I don't think. It was 40 years ago when Dale signed at Portage and Maine. Peter Young, who was there with me that day, and I were talking about the fact that wouldn't it have been nice if we had gone there in strollers with our mothers, but it wasn't true. We had gone there as working guys doing our jobs, and it's 40 years ago now. And I think what the Jets have done on the 40th anniversary of the signing of Dale Hawerchuk to build a statue to Dale and try to get a street renamed, and we'll have an entire heritage season of Hawerchuk. And the fact that they're bringing back the heritage blue jerseys as a third jersey instead of that powdered blue thing, I think it's a tremendous a tribute to Dale and his period of time. I don't think there was anything better the Jets ever had than the heritage jerseys they wore in the heritage game against.
That was fantastic. Yeah, hey, Jordan,
sensation.
Jordan, go on, file, write down. We'll have to do the third jerseys because there were some nasty third jerseys this year, and I think
this one for the Jets is going to be tremendous. It's
fantastic.
I love it. It was, and with the red pants and the blue, and it to me is the Winnipeg Jets, and I think everything they're doing with Dale is tremendous. It's hard to have heroes anymore because sometimes, if your favorite player, for instance, was Evander Kane, and then suddenly all of this stuff happens, and it's hard to have these guys as heroes. But if Dale Hawerchuk was your hero, you had a real hero. I mean, he was a tremendous human being who, until the day he died, was a hockey coach, and he's the guy who made Mark Scheifele ready for the National Hockey League. I mean, I think people forget all the players that he brought out of the Barrie Colts. He was a hockey guy till the day he passed. And lived a really, really strong life. He was a great human being, great family man, great coach, great player. He's the type of guy you want as a hero, and he's the type of guy who should have a statue built to him in front of the ring.
Hey, Paul, I want to ask you this question leading from that. In the old days, our days, we didn't get all this internet exposure of a player, right? Today, we know everything. We know what they ate for breakfast this morning at the Pancake House because I saw one of the Jets there and I took a picture of it. And I thought maybe, you got to lose a little weight, forget the maple syrup. I really think that that's a difference from then and now, right, Scott? You know that too. We didn't know. There were a lot of stars that we thought were they were put on pedestals because they were the greatest in the world, but we forgot they may have been greatest in their sport. Yeah. But they had some demons in their closet that weren't immediately available to us because we didn't have this thing called the internet. Now we know everything and anything about a player instantly. Is there anybody in your history that you could go, and we don't have to get deep in and the dark side, but is there somebody where you found out later on that he wasn't or she wasn't what was advertised? Paul?
I don't know. Yeah, I loved the Blackhawks back in the day. I still love them. But, like a Bobby Hall, he was my favorite hockey player growing up. And I guess, Bobby, there was things with Bobby, but, you could definitely 100% if it was nowadays, you could find out things instantly. So I think guys got a little bit of a pass back then because we didn't have the information. But just real quick on what Scott said, Dale Hawerchuk, the only word I could use with Dale Hawerchuk, and I got to meet him a couple times with Barry, class, simple class.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the Bobby Hull thing that's very interesting is that none of us, and I will include me in it, wrote about the things that Bobby was doing. Everybody knew what Bobby was doing. Everybody knew the relationship between Bobby and Joanne. Right. Everybody knew the relationship back then between Brett and Bobby. It wasn't like it was hidden particularly. And you look back on it, and I guess if things were like today, everybody would have known. But as I look back on Winnipeg's history, everybody knew anyway. I mean, the divorce was very wide open.
Yeah, nasty.
It was nasty, but the legal papers were available to everybody.
Right.
I mean, It wasn't like that they were hidden. So, yeah, I think the whole point with Bobby Hull was everybody knew anyway, but nobody said much.
And I was close to that because I played with Bobby Hull Jr. in senior hockey, and it was tough because you looked at it, because we won't get into how deep the stories are, but he was not the best husband. Let's just put it that way. And we heard that, right? And when you looked at him, you were in awe of him being a hockey player, but sometimes we forget to judge him also as a person. Hey, to wrap up the show, and I know you're going to wrap it up in a few minutes, I want to ask this one very important question. When is it time? When is it time for a player to say it's over? I got to play 41 up to the age of 41 in Germany, but again, it was third league division. I could have probably went to 45. I was forced into retirement because of my father being stricken with prostate cancer, and I had to give up a 3-year contract and come home. But I just read that the Panthers have signed Joe Thornton, who I have nothing but admiration for, and some of the great years he gave not only the Boston Bruins, San Jose Sharks, and of course to Team Canada. He's 42 years old. Yes, athletes are better, but what he showed us last year, Paul and Scott, I think it's time. And yet he said he wants to go and win a Stanley Cup, and he's picked the Florida Panthers for 1 year.
It's not going to be in Florida. Yeah, it's not going to be in Florida.
I agree with a minor league baseball player I knew named John Weber. John Weber played for the Goldeyes. John Weber he was a star in Mexico. John Weber was a real good ball player. And John was playing with the Goldeyes in his late 30s. Now, that's $2,000 a month. That's not a whole lot of money. And he was still playing. And people would say to him, why don't you retire? And he said, as long as people are going to give me a uniform and a contract, I'm going to play because I don't want to do anything else.
Right.
And I look at Joe Thornton the same way. If he wasn't playing the NHL, he'd be playing old timers. He'd be doing what it is to be a Canadian, driving 3 hours both ways for 12 minutes of ice time in senior hockey. That's a Canadian. And I am really against these people who say, oh, he's got to retire. What about his legacy? Screw his legacy. And I'm really, really against the people who say, well, Miguel Cabrera should retire because he's not hitting the ball the way he did in 2009. Do you know that they pay him $31 million a year to bat 250, and they're going to pay him $34 million a year until 2025?
Yep.
No, I'm not retiring. No, pay me the $34 million every year, sports fans. It is a job, and he's still doing a job, and I am pro Joe Thornton. I'm glad he signed. He got $750,000. Go play hockey because it's better than playing senior hockey in Ontario.
I don't even get the 12 minutes when I go to beer league hockey. They only give me 6.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. But you go and you drive both ways.
Yeah, and I got to pay for my skate sharpening and my stick.
Bingo.
Paul?
But you still do it.
Absolutely. Perfect. You have yourself a great rest of the Saturday, Scott, and
you guys too.
Gouche, have fun golfing today. We'll see you back in TO tomorrow.
Well, we're going to take a picture. Scott and I are going to hook up for a quick beer right after my golf game. Can't wait to see you, buddy. Social distance. Wear your mask, please, because I'm worried about you.
Bye, guys.
Right. See you guys. Hey, that's great. Gouche in Winnipeg having some fun with the boys, being honored there. Nothing like the game of hockey, no matter what, whether you're 10 years old or you're 80 years old, you can always find a game somewhere and you can always have fun. Have a great Saturday. Take care of yourself. Be safe and be good to each other. God bless.
You've been listening to The Rosen Report, sports like never before, with your host, Rosey. Brought to you by Gouche Live and Paramount Sports Management.